This is an oral history interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and community in which you now reside.
My name is Francis Hufnagel. Call me Frank. I live at 702 Old Strawberry Hill Road in Centerville, Massachusetts on Cape Cod.
Awesome. All right, so my first question is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, which is part of Boston.
Okay. And what do you do in your spare time now?
Well, I'm still very active. I was a teacher, and since that time I worked about 3 other jobs. But I love gardening. I love fishing. I like boating. And I keep myself busy walking 3 miles every day down Cape Cod Mall with friends of mine, most of them servicemen.
Nice. Do you mind me asking, where did you teach?
I taught in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I taught in Weymouth, Massachusetts. And I taught in Cape Cod at Bicknell Junior High. And also I taught at Wixon Junior High.
Did you have any siblings or any pets?
I had a brother who is deceased now, and I have a brother and a sister, and my mother and father are deceased, and I had a lot of pets growing up, mostly dogs and cats, and with 4 children, so they always had animals around.
Oh, okay. So what attracted you to the military?
Well, my brother was in the World War II. My older brother Joe, he's deceased now. And he was a hero to me. He was in both the fighting Germans and fighting Japanese during World War II. And I love America. I love everything about it. And I'd go in the service again if I was young, because at the time a war was going on. I was attracted because most of my friends in school, in high school, I graduated in 1952 from Hyde Park High, and most of my friends were going to service, but the Korean War was from 1950 to 1953, and most of my friends entered the military upon graduation, and so we were anxious to go in.
Okay. Now we are going to talk about your military experience. But first, what did you say your age was when you first entered?
Well, actually, there was a draft in effect. And the draft was from age 19 to age 35, about that age. My brother was drafted at 19. He was a year older than me. I couldn't wait for the draft. I was anxious to go in. We had a choice to go in the Navy for 3 years, the Army for 2 years, the Marines for 3 years, or the Air Force for 3 years. I chose the Marines at that particular time. And I went in and swore in to the Marines in the Fargo building in Boston. I swore to, so I thought I was going in for 3 years, but there's a little story behind that. So I swore in for 3 years to go into the Marines. If you would like to know why I ended up in the Army, I'll let you know.
Okay? All right, you can say that.
Okay. My friend Billy Fitzpatrick just came back from Korea. He was a year older than I am, and he was a flamethrower. And he lost one eye, and he was pretty well burnt up. And he said, whatever you do, Frank, don't go in the Marines. You're going to go right over in Korea, and you're going to come back like me. So he said, well, go in the Army, and you'll probably get a chance to stay in the United States or not go over and see battles. Right? So I went down to my draft board, and I asked the draft person down there who was doing the drafting, could I move my draft date up? She said, you're not due for a year and a half. And I said, but could I move it up? And she said, yes. I said, when can I go? And she said, there's a group leaving tomorrow to go to Indiantown Gap in Pennsylvania. And if you want to be on that group, I'll square it away with the Marines, which I swore in the Marines. I'll square it away with the Marines that you were enlisted in the Army. And I'm not considered a draftee, but I volunteered for the draft. Therefore, I would only have to do 2 years rather than 3.
Okay.
Okay? Does that explain it?
Yes, that was great.
So that's the way I started when I joined.
When you found out that you're going to Korea, what were your thoughts?
Well, when you go to basic training, I went to Indiantown Gap in Pennsylvania, and you go down there for 2.5, 3 months. And while I was down there, we were actually training to fight the Koreans, the North Koreans or the Chinese. We were actually trained to fight them. And my thoughts were, I wanted to go over. As I say, I wanted to fight for my country. We knew we might get killed. And as far as my thoughts, we were transferred to Washington, the state of Washington, and then you were given your orders, and my orders were to go to Korea. So we took a ship, a boat, and we crossed over in that boat right there, and we went from there to Tokyo, Japan, and then from Tokyo, Japan, we went down to Sasebo, and from that point, if you have any other questions up to that point,
was the boat trip rough?
It was 33 days.
Oh.
And we didn't see land for 33 days, and it was a lot of storms, a lot of people getting sick. We had boxing matches going on to keep us busy. We had, it wasn't a fun trip, and it was crowded. So, and that landed in, as I say, Yokohama, Japan. And from Yokohama, Japan, we went down to Sasebo, and then we went into Incheon, Korea, on a landing craft.
What was your training like?
My training, I can lay out a book here after we're through and show you. It shows all the basic training. You actually thought you were in Korea because they called it Little Korea in the place I was in, Indiantown Gap. And we trained in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we'd sleep in tents, and I learned to fire every weapon there was, from handgun to machine guns to mortars, everything there was. And I was trained to kill, and I'm glad I never had to, but I would have if I had to.
All right. When you got to Korea, what was going on in the war?
It was coming to an end. What had happened is North Korea originally attacked South Korea under the auspices of Russia, and it was just the North Koreans we were fighting. And the North Koreans were a very strong military force, and they beat the Americans and the South Koreans all the way back to what they called the Pusan Perimeter, which is a small little spot. And if I could just kind of show it here. This is the map of North Korea and South Korea. And this little spot here is the Pusan Perimeter. We were in that one little area, and then we came into Incheon and fought our way down to here and moved our way all the way back up almost to Manchuria. At the time I came in, the Chinese had come into the war on the auspices of Russia, because they were communist also, and they came down from Manchuria and China, went across the Yellow River, got behind us, and fought us back all the way to the 38th parallel. They had already done this. You asked me when I came. No, they had already done this when I came over. When I was on my way over to Korea, the war was coming to an end, but I still had to take a train from Incheon all the way up to where the 38th parallel was, and we lived in bunkers and in tents, and it was coming to an end, and it was not pretty. I have a few instances, if I may.
Go ahead.
One of them was I was only 18 years old. I was 19. I don't think they let you in when you were by 18. I turned 19 on the boat, so I was eligible to go over there. And the first place we went was a place called Kumor and Churwon. And Kumor and Churwon were right between North Korea and South Korea, right on the border. And when we reported, we had gone by train, we had gone by boat, we had gone by train again, and we had no showers or anything, so we were really devastated. I asked my sergeant, I said, "Sergeant, is there a place where we can take a shower?" He took my helmet off, and he looked at my helmet, and he said, "Soldier," he says, this is your shower. If you can find a river, you take it there. He said, that's your bathroom. He said, that's your shower. And he said, that's it for as long as you're here. And I was 18 months in Korea. So, and we had 2 bad winters over there. So,
what was the interaction like? Did you have any interaction with the people of South Korea?
very much so, because there were so many poor children. Their parents were killed in the war and whatever. There's a lot of orphanages. And one of the duties that I had is going to orphanages and feeding them. We had oranges and food and stuff like that. And I had pictures of the orphanages there too. But my first duty was a combat infantryman. I was in the 40th Infantry Division, and I stayed with them for probably the first 6 months, and then transferred to the 2nd Infantry Division, and I was still a combat infantryman. But then I had a little background, so they put me into operations and intelligence in the 40th Infantry and the 2nd Infantry Division. And we would go out on patrols, and there were different things that we were looking for, and that was the main part. And that was the part I really liked. I really enjoyed it over there and doing that. But they called it the land of the morning calm, because in the wintertime the temperature would be normally 10 below zero, and as the day went on it might turn up to be 70. So we would wear like Mickey Mouse boots to keep us from freezing, and all those heavy flak jackets and everything else, and then by the end of the day you were sweating because the sun would come out and whatever, and then it would go 10 degrees again at night. So the weather wasn't pretty. Then, after a while, I was in the hospital in Yeongdong-po, and while in the hospital in Yeongdong-po, I was transferred again. My orders read that I was going to be in the combat engineers, which meant I would be removing mines from up in the DMZ. You know what the DMZ was, 38 parallel. You know, we were on one side and they were on the other. So the DMZ had a lot of mines in it. So they sent me to a mine warfare school, and I tried to flunk it because I only had about a month to go before I was going to rotate, okay? So I tried to flunk it, and mine warfare school, they gave me a 77. They made sure that I passed, okay? So then my job as a combat engineer was helping remove mines in the DMZ. That was getting near the end of my time, and I received a letter. This is the interesting part. I received a letter from the Marines saying that I had another year to do with them, because when I joined the Marines, as I stated earlier, and I was said that I was 3 years with the Marines, and they told me when I finished coming home I have a year to do with the Marines. And I didn't want to spend another year over there. I was already there about 16 months. So I wrote to the draft board, spoke to the woman that transferred me to the Army, and she got everything kosher, and there I didn't have to spend that other year in the Marines, thank God. But so it was combat infantryman, operations and intelligence at battalion level, and then combat engineers, 8th Army engineers.
What was an average day like for you?
The average day was bugle call to get up in the morning, and we lived in tents, and as I say, it was very, very cold, so you put on your long johns, you put on your Mickey Mouse boots, put on your flak jacket, you get your rifle, and you'd be going out on a patrol, and you never knew where that patrol was going to go. And we never knew whether the war was going to start up again, because at that time it wasn't a peace. This was not a war. They called it a police action. They did not call it a war, because it was never declared a war. And so we never knew when it was going to start up again. To this day, it's over 60 years, and that agreement, that peace agreement, is still in effect. And we're waiting at any time for North Koreans to come over the border again. That's why you have so many people over there. But we were part of an army that was a United Nations army, because it wasn't only Americans. It was the Germans, it was the French, it was Turkey. Turkey was in it, Australia, Canada. Many, many countries in the United Nations were all in the same service. Plus we had Korean Army, which we called KATUSAs. KATUSA stands for Korean Army transferred to American Army. We all served as one. So I may have gone on a patrol with 4 or 5 other people that spoke other languages. I remember one time playing cards with people, and there were 3 turkey, and they were terrible, great fighters. They were great fighters, but they fought with knives, swords. And I was playing cards, all of a sudden all the Americans, and I'm the only one, and I'm winning. And what happened, I'm afraid to win. I was afraid, so I had to play till I lost, because I didn't know what would happen. They were speaking their language, I couldn't speak their language, but it was very interesting, meet a lot of interesting people. And I went on 2 R&Rs to Japan. Do you know what R&R is?
No.
Rest and recuperation. After spending so much time online, then you were given time to go over to Japan. We had our choice, Japan, a couple other places. So you'd get a plane and you'd fly to Japan for 10 days. So I'd spend twice. I did it once in Kokura and once in Yokohama. And I had some pleasant times in there, and I actually dated a Japanese girl who worked in I sent in some China home to my mother, and I met a nice Japanese girl there, and we went to a movie. If I could tell you some funny incidents on that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Her name was Mariko Naracano, and we went to a movie, and the movie was called Johnny Dark. It was about a race driver. And I was sitting in the movie with her, and I'm watching the movie, and all of a sudden I'm laughing like anything, and 2 minutes later I hear everybody else laugh, and I figured it out. It was dubbed underneath in Chinese, in Japanese. So I heard the actual English, and then they were reading it underneath, dubbed, and then they would laugh after I laughed. So I thought that was quite funny. So I had my good times in Japan, as I say, twice over there. Met a lot of great friends. Some of my friends died, but it was at the very, very end, and it was actually it was great to see them come back. And there were 21 people who decided not to come back. They stayed in China, and we always thought of them as deserters, but who knows what went on? Because they were tortured pretty bad by the Chinese.
What was your happiest moment?
In Korea?
Yes.
Probably the day I left. The happiest time. I got a couple of promotions, but I only received the rank of corporal. I was an operations sergeant, but that was my rank was corporal. It's just meeting so many friends, and then when I transferred into the engineers, combat engineers, I didn't have to have an M1. I had a carbine then, which was a lot lighter. And by that time, I was pretty used to the military, and I could, as we call it, dress pretty sharp. I'd have creases in my thing, and I'd always get picked not to have to serve guard duty, because you'd be the one who could answer all the questions and do all the right things that the lieutenant asked you to do, and you'd be what they call a supernumerary, which meant that you wouldn't have to go out on guard duty unless somebody gets sick or something. So I always liked pulling that supernumerary thing. I liked that. And the best thing is that I was proud that I was serving my country. And as I say, I would do it again, and the guys that were there were heroes that were there before me, just as the greatest generation in World War II. I always loved my brother because of what he did. And that was probably my happiest time. I always look back at those times.
That's nice. And if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer this, but what was your darkest memory?
My what?
Your darkest memory.
My darkest memory was my first day. I don't know whether they did this on purpose or not, but they told me I had to pull guard duty the first day. And guard duty consisted of, at that particular time, we had what we called where they served the food out of. We had a tent where all the food was in, and they had a night cook, a night baker, getting the food ready for the next day. And that was one of the places, and an ammo depot was another place that we would guard around. So I would go around halfway and meet another soldier and then we'd meet each other, greet each other, and go around the other half. And so on. And about halfway through it, I heard a gunshot, and I thought it was the enemy, but we were actually, signing peace treaties and everything at that time. But I took my rifle and I ran towards the area, and I seen two other American soldiers there standing over the other guy that was going back and forth. His name was John Brown, and he was dead, and he had committed suicide. He played Russian roulette. He had his own pistol. He went into the cook, and the cook explained that to me, that he said, I'm going to play Russian roulette. He didn't think he had any bullets in the chamber, and he could spin the chamber and then put it up to his head and pull it and then say, ha, ha, ha. But he had one bullet in there, and he knew it. It went through his brain. He was laying there with it. And I'm looking down at him. I helped carry him into the medic, and he was dead there. Went back to his tent to report to all his other friend soldiers that this had died. He had died, committed suicide. And they found a Dear John letter. You know what a Dear John letter is?
No.
Dear John?
No.
That was a song then during that time. It was a letter from his girlfriend saying that she broke up with him. She found another guy. So that was probably the saddest time.
All right. How did you feel when you got home?
Taking that long, we had to take the same 33-day trip back in the boat. And when we got to Seattle, we took a plane, and there were only 4 of us. And the 4 of us went back to New Jersey, Camp Kilman, New Jersey. And I was discharged at Camp Kilman, New Jersey. And we had to serve 4 more years in the reserve, because don't forget, Vietnam happened right after Korea. So we had to serve 4 more years. And I walked home. I didn't have my uniform home, but I remember walking up Farrar Avenue, the street I lived in. I was so proud to go home. I had tears in my eyes to see my mother and father and my brother and sister. It was a great, great feeling. And don't forget, the war was over then, so no more guys had to go over. But we do have a lot over there now, and they're in that same DMZ that I left. That was that I felt, and not only that, I had when you write, and you write to different people. I had about 2 or 3 different girls I was writing to that I knew from Hyde Park High, and I was anxious to see girls again. That would be different after being with guys for 18 months.
What brought you to the Cape?
What brought me to the Cape? At the time, I lived in Holbrook. We moved out of Boston. We lived in the housing project, the Heath Street project in Boston, in Roxbury. And then we moved out of there to a house in Holbrook, and we used to come down the Cape all the time and visit. And as we came down the Cape and visit, we got to know people down here and got to know how beautiful it was in the Cape. So I rented a house up to Calmus Park in Hyannis. It was a judge's house, had a swimming pool and a view of the water. It was gorgeous. We rented it for 6 months while I was teaching in my first year at Mattakese Middle School. Then that's what's wrong. Oh, I had a choice. I had a contract to teach in Cambridge. I had a contract to teach in Australia. I had a contract to teach in Nantucket. I really wanted, my wife and I elected upon teaching in Yarmouth at the Mattakese Middle School, and that's why we decided to come to Cape. Beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. All right. How did you lose your hearing?
Well, it's a combination. I fired many weapons. And anybody that was in the Korean War was not given, I call it the Korean War because to me it was a war, not a police action. Everybody who went to basic training and fought every kind of weapon there was, bazookas, machine guns, hand grenades, we were not given hearing protection. We were not given, guard to put over your ears while you were doing all the shooting. And then we went over and we shot more when we were in Korea. So any Korean veteran, a lot of them, I'm glad to be able to say this on it, any Korean veteran who went through basic training is entitled to a free hearing aid, 1 or 2 free hearing aids, because they were supposed to be given hearing protection, and we weren't given hearing protection. So, because I was going in the VA to have my teeth fixed and stuff like that, they told me I was entitled to a hearing aid because I was under these conditions. So it was loud noises. And I lost the hearing in this right ear completely. This helps me. But I don't feel, I feel I'm very, very fortunate, believe me. I'm blessed. I'm blessed with all I have.
So is there anything you would like us to know about anything else of your military experience?
Well, let me see. I have pictures here. I'll lay them out as like when I was over there, and some of the children that we went and we gave gifts to over there that were in so on. But let's see. So did that. Could you hand me that, please? Yeah. Can you see that on there?
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is the first outfit I was in was the 40th Infantry Division, Sunburst Division. The second outfit I was in was the 2nd Infantry Division, and I don't know what happened to my medal. Well, this is the 2nd Infantry Division right here. Can you see that on there? That's the 2nd Infantry Division. Yes. And these are different medals I received, and this is going on a patrol. But when I'm just thinking now of an award that received from the President of Korea 50 years after the Korean War. And it's this one right here. Mm-hmm. And it's a letter from the actual President of Korea thanking me for being in Korea and serving in the Army to help save Korea from the North Koreans. And I thought that was quite a nice thing. Yeah. Let's see what else I had here. Basic training. I think that's probably about it. What was the last question you asked me? I'm sorry. Could you please repeat that?
It was, do you have anything you want us to know? Any extras?
No, I think that's it. I do have a few things that I can't kick them right offhand. It was a good time of my life. And I don't say to everybody they should do their time. We don't have a draft now, but I really think that these guys that are over there serving our country and our flag, I admire them. But there was something I was going to say that after being discharged, it was underway. Oh, and I'm very fortunate too. I don't know if you're going to ask me anything about my wife or kids, but I was very fortunate to meet my wife in Hyde Park. And were you going to ask me anything about that, by the way? No?
I will ask you that. I have just a couple more questions about the.
Okay.
When you went to the orphanage with the kids, how was the experience, and did you learn anything about how they were living?
I couldn't speak Korean. We used to speak a combination of Japanese, Korean, and English. But you could pick up common phrases that were there. And they were sad. It was sad. It was, don't forget how cold it was, and they didn't have shoes in their feet, some of them. They didn't moccasin. And it probably gave me more of a feeling of sympathy for anybody, you know. You see, I seen a lot of wounded people when I was in the hospital. This is. Do you have time for? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was in the hospital, as I say, in Yongdong Po, and while I was in there, it wasn't for something serious. I had bleeding ulcers, and I was being treated for that. But there were a lot of guys in there that were treated for wounds and much more serious thing. But they were going to do an interview of what's going on with this military in Korea, and they ringed me up to what was a drip, you know, for medicine, and I didn't need it, but she pretended she taped it, pretended it was on my arm, and here's me, a healthy-looking guy, sitting in the bed like that, and the nurses are all around me, and they're interviewing you, and they gave my name, they gave my address, and everything on TV, and this is one of our soldiers in Korea, now all that are going on and on. We didn't say anything, I was in the picture. But as soon as it was hung up, my brother in New York called me and said, "Did you know you were on TV?" And I said, "How about Boston?" I was scared my mother would see me in there, with, you know, thinking that I was half dead there in the bed. And it never went to Boston. My brother seen it in New York, but my mother never seen it, fortunately. So that was one incident.
What did your family think of you going into the war?
My brother was married and he was drafted at 19. He was married at 19 and he was drafted, and he hated every minute of it. He was stationed, fortunately, he was stationed over here in New Mexico the whole time. But he was a great ball player and he played softball for the team, and so at least he got that enjoyment out of it. But he just couldn't wait to get out. He doesn't believe in war. He doesn't believe in we're direct opposites. He's a year and a half older than me, but we're direct opposites. Not that I love war, but I'm proud of the people who served there.
Thank you for serving and protecting us. I'm going to ask you about your current life now. So how about your wife and your kids? Anything about that?
Best time of my life. I was 18 when I went in the military. I was 20 when I got out of the military. I was 20 when I got married, and my wife was 18 and just graduated from high school. So there I found a beautiful young girl, graduated from the same high school, Hyde Park High School. And our first son, Mark, was born, and she was just turned 19. And we've been married 62 years. And she was just the most beautiful girl I ever seen. We had 4 children, Mark, David, Paul, and Lisa. You guys all know Paul. And we have 12 grandchildren. We have 12 great-grandchildren. So I've lived a full life. And I really enjoy doing things with all my grandchildren. It's getting a little tougher now that I'm a great-grandfather, but I still try to play with them as much as possible.
All right. What are your hobbies? Do you have any hobbies?
My hobbies, my biggest hobby is fishing. And I love fishing. I had a boat every time I've been in the Cape. In the first year I was in the Cape, so I had a boat, and I fished on both sides of the oceans, over on the north side and the south side, and mainly striped bass. I've caught large striped bass, a lot of blues and fluke and all kinds of fish. But I love going out in the water. I'd go out by myself in my small 16-footer and a 25 horse. And my sons all went. I taught them all how to fish. And I used to go hunting. I was quite a hunter at one time. I knew how to use all the weapons, that's for sure. Then I also gardening. I believed in organic gardening. I tried organic gardening for a while and had quite a few gardens, both in my last house and in this house. I like movies. I like plays. I like doing things, and I like family.
All right. Are you still in contact with maybe some friends you've made?
Some who?
Some friends you've made over
in the military?
In the war, yeah.
I was. Let me put it that way. You kind of move away from each other. A lot of the military that I was in the service with were from down south, and they went their way and I went my way. There was only one guy I got the name of Jones. He was in the engineers with me, and he ended up being an engineer, owning an engineering outfit when he got discharged. But I still keep busy. Oh, could you pass me that? That's what I was thinking of. This, when I went to Japan on R&R that I spoke about, there was a girl in there that was painting pictures. Now this is on silk. Now I want you to notice something about, in there I had a dress uniform, so naturally I could dress up when I was in Japan. So do you notice something about this picture that looks a little different than me? Look at the eyes. Number one, my eyes are blue and these are brown. And number two, they're slanted.
Oh.
Although the Orientals painted somebody, like all my buddies all had a little bit of, can you see it now? It's almost like Oriental eyes.
I can see it now.
Yeah. So
You guys can keep going.
so that was unique to me when I got that. Okay.
All right. So that's it for our questions. Is there anything you would like to show? Any specific?
Well, I'll put this down here on the, and I don't know if you can see. There are some pictures in here, and I'll point them out before I lay them down. This is in basic training, and the guy with a circle around his head is me. That was in basic training when I first went in. This is when I was in Korea in the infantry. This is a USO show. Marilyn Monroe came over to see him in USO show. This is a little dog. We had little puppies. He may look cute, but unfortunately, one of the favorite foods of the Koreans was kimchi and doggies. Yeah, we had 3 of them. They disappeared. We found out where they went. This is in Japan on R&R that I was talking to, the happy guy in Japan. This is our tent at Christmas time. As happy as it could be at Christmas time. There's 3 of my little puppies. It was a different way of life.
All right. So I want to say thank you for everything you've done for us and for other people, and you are a hero to a lot of people.
Not really. Am I still on there? This
Yes.
is one book I would recommend that anybody read. It's called The Coldest Winter. It's all about the Korean War. If somebody's interested in really learning about the Korean War, it's called The Coldest Winter. And I thank you people for interviewing. And I love to be talking with young people, and they're the future of our world and our country.